Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to kick off our very first UXDX Los Angeles virtual event. My name is Marne Palamutian. I am a senior manager of UX research and one of the UXDX ambassadors in Los Angeles. And I'm joined by Billy today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Billy Carlson. I am also an ambassador for UXDS out of Los Angeles, and I'm a manager of product design at iHeart.
Awesome. Okay, so here's what we have on the agenda today. We're going to introduce you to what UXDX is all about, share their mission, and hear from two fantastic speakers on the topics of driving innovation and collaboration in product design. So let's start with the UXDX. For those who may not be familiar with the organization, it's a fantastic organization with a simple yet powerful mission, which is to advance how product teams collaborate. And by improving workflows and encouraging cross-functional cooperation, they help teams build better products that create value for not just customers, but for the business and employees as well. And UXDX typically does this through engaging events, trainings, and supportive global communities, such as the one that we're in right now. Let's move on to the next. Okay, so over the past 9 years, UXDX has brought together product teams around the world. Their flagship conferences are this year include in USA, which is in New York, and in EMEA in Berlin. Combining in-person and virtual experiences to engage thousands of attendees globally. These conferences offer a blend of case studies, actionable insights, and networking opportunities for product design, research, and all the other disciplines involved in product development. This is actually how I got introduced to UXDX in 2023, where I presented at their New York conference, followed by the one in Dublin. And this year, I actually have the privilege of presenting in Berlin, which I'm super excited about. And seeing firsthand the quality of speakers and caliber of professionals that come together to learn how from one another, how to grow together. And so that was one of the main reasons I actually decided to become a UXDX ambassador last year. And Billy, I'll turn it over to you to speak a little bit about the audience that's involved in this community.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So what I wanted to say and what really drew me to the UXDX community was it's not just a design community or a product community. It's a combination of everyone who works together to create great digital products and experiences. So as you can see, we have 30,000 global members, which is really huge, and over 100 countries are represented. And I think that's just amazing. That's one of the things that really drew me to it is it's equal parts design, product, engineering with some marketing in there as well. And I think that's really important. So why are we doing these community events? I think we all agree these are really powerful. Not everyone can make it out in person to New York or Berlin this year. And also it's really important to connect locally in Los Angeles and together and come together. So that's why we're doing this first event virtually. We're also hoping to do an in-person events and possibly meetups and stuff like that to bring us together. And why is because networking is really important. Coming together, meeting people from different backgrounds and different companies really helps you grow your networking and your professional relationship, but also it helps you grow as a professional. Cross-pollinating ideas is something that naturally happens when you're in these events. You get to meet people who you would likely never meet before and become possibly friends with these people. And also these things really help us promote key values that we see are important in building great product teams, which is creating ethical products, having effective teamwork, and being customer-centric in our problem solving. So with that said, we're going to dive into our speakers today. First up, we have Sophia Ruiz from Atlassian, who will talk about, oh, sorry, I didn't switch my slide. Designing and developing a new product, relentless collaboration. So I really love that. And then we have a Robert who will speak on bringing ideas to reality with the Discover Innovation Framework. So With that said, we can bring in Sophia and she can get started.
Awesome. We're going to talk a little bit about driving collaboration as product designers. I'm Sophia. I'm a lead product designer at Atlassian. As you can see by the photos, I enjoy eating cake. I've been enjoying that since I was a little girl. And so that is my personal fact for you guys. Now, professionally, though, I've been at Atlassian for about 2.5 years. I'm really enjoying my time there. At Atlassian, we literally build collaboration and teamwork tools. So it's very fitting for what I'm going to talk about today, but also it really aligns with what I'm passionate about. So that's cool. So let's dive into it. Designing a feature or a new product, no matter the size, in an agile company can be really, really messy. And so I decided to put here the double diamond model. I'm assuming we all are familiar with this visual. It's a visual representation of the workflow, representing the design process. So we have the discovery, the define, the develop, and the deliver phase. Now, what I've always found interesting about this visualization is that it seems so perfect, so pretty, right? Especially in that discovery phase. Throughout my career, that is not how I felt during the discovery phase. To me, it feels something a little bit like this. I don't want to say most of the time I feel this way, but definitely some days, me and my researcher always laugh about this. We love this meme. To me, the discovery phase is super messy. It can be stressful at times, but it's also the most rewarding. So how do we come out victorious out of this messy phase to be able to achieve our goals and get success in the project? To me, the most important thing that will get us closer and faster to success is relentless collaboration. And so talking a little bit about collaboration itself, I don't have to tell you what it is. We all know what it is. But what I do feel is that when we think about collaboration, we tend to think of like, oh, it's the other person. They're not good at collaborating, or it's them, it's not me. To me, collaboration is 100% up to me, up to you, and it's a skill that I think it's important to hone in and really pay attention to as part of our work. And to me, it's not just only about designing software. As designers, I believe it's part of our role to also design collaborative ways of working that will get us closer to our shared outcome and keep us sane in the process. And just a little bit about Atlassian values here, which is something that I've learned while working at Atlassian. Atlassian has 4 core values. You can go to their website and check them out if you're curious. But my favorite value that frames the work we do is be the change you seek. So if there's like one outcome I want you all to leave from this presso, is that it's really up to you to drive collaboration and change in your work every day. But what can we tangibly do as product designers to drive design collaboration? I'm going to talk about 2 points. First, about embracing ambiguity and leveraging our craft to drive collaboration. So, starting with embracing ambiguity, lack of clarity is your opportunity to set and influence the direction. It is also one of the fastest ways to drive collaboration. And yes, ambiguity can be super uncomfortable, but it's the opportunities that we have for growth. So embracing it allows for flexibility, adaptability, and the ability to consider multiple perspectives. And also, there is no better way of building trust with your teammates than sitting all together and say, I have no idea what this is, but let's figure out together, and being vulnerable together. Now, and this might be a little spicy take, but just as an example that I think is something that especially young designers do in their careers is sort of like relying too much in other teammates to provide that direction, especially in the discovery phase. To me, product specs, really detailed product specs, can be detrimental to driving collaboration. I really don't think they help. Also, don't make me sit in front of a long document written by a single person in isolation. This really takes all the fun out of the discovery process, and nobody likes to collaborate in front of a Word document. So don't look toward your product manager or product owner to provide all the answers. Shifting to a mindset of embracing ambiguity together will accelerate the discovery process. Consider meeting more frequently, use other tools such as whiteboards. The point is that all questions can get answered in real time. Stakeholders are included from the very beginning, and people feel more comfortable with the direction. And just as detailed product specs can kill the mood, so do detailed roles and responsibilities. So in order to move fast, you're going to have to let go of hard boundaries of what your role looks like versus or what you think you're responsible for versus a product manager or a researcher or an engineer. This is especially true in the discovery phase. Of course, as you go along and you start have more clarity in building the product, not so much. But in the discovery phase, just lean into this ambiguity, right? The point is that everyone is welcome. Everyone should be included in the early kickoffs and collaboration sessions. All perspectives are good. All perspectives are valid. Ensure, for example, that your product manager knows that you don't expect them to have all the answers. Ensure your engineers feel like they can bring their perspectives to the table, not just about technical constraints, but about design, about components, about the flows, and ensure everyone has a chance to be heard. And be empowered to ask for what you need to be successful, but don't ask as if it's another person's job or responsibility. Create something first, whatever it is, just create it, share it, and get feedback. And this goes hand in hand with my favorite Atlassian value that I was talking about, be the change you seek. It's important to have the awareness of what and when to ask your manager and cross-functional leaders exactly what you need to be successful at your job. But before you ask, and especially if you think that ask may traditionally fall under somebody else's role, create something first, take the lead. At Atlassian, I don't work for Jira or Confluence, by the way, the most well-known products at Atlassian, but I work for a tool that aggregates data. So every time I need to make a mock, I need data, like fake data. I can't tell you how many times I've stopped myself on Slack and deleting messages on this exact same situation. Oh, I think PM should give me the data. Doesn't matter. Create the mock. Use fake data. Use whatever data you have in hand. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make perfect sense. It doesn't have to be perfect. The point is that you now have something to show, and it's a starting point for a conversation. You made something out of nothing, and the cool thing is that now you put that in someone else's court. People will feel more inclined to collaborate because you didn't call anyone out. You took the initiative, and also remember that everyone is busy. So help yourself by helping your team by taking the lead. The other point I want to talk about is leveraging our craft as designers to drive collaboration. So as designers, it's our job to master visual communication and to use this as an effective tool to drive collaboration. So when the team is staring at an empty canvas, you've got the upper hand. And how do we do this? We do this by visualizing. As soon as you can, start visualizing. Move away from writing a long document, or in my case, a long Confluence page. When I started at Atlassian, I thought the way to give visibility to my work was to write a document about the work that I was about to do in Figma or whatever design tool of your choice. Don't do that. Just go straight to the visualizations. Even when you're out of ideas, when your team has no sense of the direction, start visualizing. And it doesn't have to be lo-fi in the discovery phase. I know that a lot of designers like to use more lo-fi designs when landing on the direction. Do whatever is comfortable to you. Personally, I like to use mid to lo-fi designs. I think it shortens a little bit the feedback loops, but use a whiteboard, use whatever tool as long as it's a visual tool. And I recommend starting this process on your own. The most important thing is for you to not take too long. Don't take more than 10 minutes on a particular screen. If you really cannot think of anything, really start little. Like, draw on your intuition. You will always have some type of idea of what the experience is calling for. But if you're blocked, just keep going. Move on to the next thing. Don't get stuck in one thing for too long. Because the important thing is to gather feedback in real time as soon as possible. Have a session with your cross-functional team and use these collab sessions to jam on ideas, refine direction and scope, and get feasibility checks with your triad partners. And the important thing here is to make sure that you document your decisions. How many sessions, workshops you lead will depend on how big the feature is, or if it's a new product, there will be obviously more, or how many people are involved, more people, more sessions. But the important thing is that these decisions are collectively documented somewhere, in case any other stakeholder needs visibility into why certain decisions were made. If applicable, provide options with all the designs you make. I like to say that 3 is a good number. The way we do it at Atlassian, we work with a framework called Good, Better, Best, where good is the design that if you had to ship that tomorrow, you would be okay with it. You'll be like, yep, this is a good design. This is a good experience. I'm confident that it covers all the pain points for customers, and it looks and feels right. Best is pushing it a little bit further. So you make it a little bit better, right? And now, sorry, that's better. And now best is your crazy idea. Best is what you think we could do if we had all the resources and all the time available. Your best should be a design that the first reaction from stakeholders should be like, whoa, a little bit scared, but that then turns into excitement. And I think it's really important to always provide these options when you're presenting any type of idea, any type of design within the discovery phase. It will shorten the feedback loops, it will get people talking, and it can inspire more and better ideas. And interesting as well, I would also suggest you visualize the not so great ideas. I can't tell you how many times I've been in meetings and everyone is talking about what they think the best thing is. Everyone in their head has their own idea or construct of what we should be doing. And right there, I'm just in Figma. And then I'm like, wait, do you mean this? And straight away, it's like, oh, when you visualize the idea, you don't even have to explain. People then know that maybe that's not the best course of action. So obviously you don't always have to mock up all the ideas that come out within the group. But if you feel that the idea that's being pitched is not the right way to go, this is also your chance to demonstrate that to the group. To shorten the feedback loop and reach a wider audience, I would also recommend to always record your demo or your prototype and share it as widely as you can. So after having one of these cross-craft sessions, once you have designs to show, you can make a demo and record it. Now, as well, shameless plug to Atlassian, but what we use at Atlassian, a tool called Loom, which is essentially like an internal YouTube. So you could record your demos, you have your little face at the bottom of the camera, people can comment on it, and it can be shared. This is great to not only showcase your work as a designer to secondary stakeholders, but also great to enable collaboration with team members in different time zones. So, for example, at Atlassian, there's a huge team in Australia, so it's really handy to just being able to send a video and being able to shorten the feedback loops and align quicker. And yes, of course, when possible, always do a prototype. Again, rely on your craft and your superpower. The more interactive, the more impactful your idea will be. And last but not least, decentralize communication as much as possible to drive maximum collaboration. What I like to do is I kind of stop relying so much on sending private instant messages. So whatever tool you use, either Teams chat or Slack, what I started doing is creating a channel for my particular project. There we talk about the work or share the work, but the point is that everyone who participates on the project or is interested in the project can access and see all communications. And obviously this gives visibility to every effort the team is making toward the shared goal and ensure everyone is aware of the discussions. So collaboration and success is definitely up to you. And your superpower to achieve this is the ability to make ideas tangible. The best part of this for me, and the reason why I enjoy what we do so much, is that nobody can stop you, because nobody else in the team has the skill that you do to be able to visualize. So when you think the idea is not the best, visualize it. Nobody can stop you also from visualizing what you think is the best idea, and thinking divergently. So that will be my main advice for you, for all product designers there. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was awesome, Sophia. Some of the stuff, it seems like it's common sense until it's like actually crafted in a well presented manner, then it makes a lot more sense. So yeah, great job on that. We do have a few questions from the audience. We have a few minutes to go through them. Bill, you want to take the first one?
Yeah, sure. First, just a quick comment. I really loved your presentation. And one thing I like to say is I love hearing about other companies and teams' frameworks, especially in product design. And to me, that's really important, and things that you learn from these that I'm going to take to my team, like good, better, best, because we don't really do that. And I think that would be such a fun, interesting thing to introduce. So thank you for that. Okay, so I'm just going to go with the first one. And it is, does Atlassian use the double diamond or which framework?
Atlassian started using their own framework, but it is essentially a double diamond. I think we call it make, explore, discover. So it was the same thing. But as we're developing products faster and faster, the phases become like all mushed together at times. But I would say it's the same framework overall.
I don't understand why we always do that. We make our own version of the same thing.
No, yeah, it's the same. It's the same.
It works.
You have discovery is messy. Finally, you have an answer, and you just have to make a lot of product trade-offs to make sure you reach the deadline. Yeah.
Okay, let's jump to the next question. How do you balance detail versus no spec without crashing?
That's a good one. I would go back to my own advice, which is like over communicate. I think, and as well, I just want to say product specs and detailed product specs, I think they're really useful. But what we have found more successful at the project that I've been at least at Atlassian, is to having that decision register instead of a detailed product spec. So once you're starting to build, you already know the direction, but you really need to give a detailed document especially for the engineering teams, to know exactly all the edge cases and things like that. A detailed spec is useful, but before that, having a decision register, I find it a bit more useful, which is you're collaborating together, you document the decisions you've made, and the questions that might come up. That sort of like serves already as a high-level product spec. And then, of course, when you're building, you have your detailed thing with all the edge cases laid out. But I think that balance works well.
I have a little bit of a follow-up because I've dealt with this before too, and I'm curious if you have any advice on how you build trust to go without requirements in these discovery phases.
That's a good one. Just, I don't know, be transparent, show up, and just bring people in the process with you. I think when people understand what you're doing and they can see you doing the work, they know that you will sort it out, right? They know that they don't have to provide all the answers. We've had so many discussions with our PM team as well, because like, it's always like, oh, we feel that the PM is, like really hoarding the discussion. But when we started talking, it was like from the PM side, they were like, we're stressed because we feel like we need to have all the answers. And so you need to give us time. And so it was like, no, like we can do it all together though. Like I can help you.
Exactly.
And we can come to the same conclusion, but 10 times faster. So I think that's why it's so powerful to like really, really collaborate really closely, really intensely at times, and visualize, because each person in the team has different ideas of what they should be doing.
Yeah.
And so just being able to be like, oh, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. We can do this so much faster. It's just so powerful. So
I love
yeah.
that. It's great.
I think we're at time for Sophia, so let's move forward to Robert. Thank you again so much. This was great.
Job.
Yeah, let's invite Robert.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, welcome.
Take it away.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, everyone, for joining here. So we have, my talk is around the innovation framework that we have at Discover Financial. As a financial organization, you'll see that I have my disclaimer at the bottom. So we have that much more formal. We have to be around here, but we also ensure that we are innovating. So a little bit about, I'll go through a little bit outline here. Sophia had a great presentation. It's interesting because she's putting those ideas to work, and what we're going to do is try to develop those ideas, and that's what we try to do at Discover in those initial phases. So we'll do about me, a little bit on innovation generally, and at Discover. This is a slide. It used to be activity, but we won't be doing that. But I will walk through a few pieces here, how we go about doing it, examples of how we do that, and we'll do Q&A at the end. So I'm Robert. I am currently an expert innovation design facilitator for Discover. That is a very long title that I almost always have to look up because I never remember it. I've been a UX strategist for well over a decade, worked in various industries, was a nonprofit exec back in a former life, and I'm from New York originally with a layover in Philly before landing here in Los Angeles. So innovation, it's like the word unprecedented. When we live in this world and people just say it over and over again, everything's unprecedented. Innovation also means nothing, and it means everything. So what is innovation? I like to say, you can say innovate, and you want to hear, how many times do you hear innovate or innovation? Take a shot. You can make it into that drinking game. So, but let's dig into it. Is innovation around kind of technology? Is it around, new AI systems or technology or softwares you use? No, it's in a world of AI where everyone wants to use this latest technology, and that's great, but innovation isn't driven by technology or the software you use. It's driven by discipline, and it's hard. That's why everyone wants to say they do it and say they want to be innovative, and everyone wants to be innovative, but sometimes the work kind of ends up being that boulder that you're just trying to move through, and it's hard to kind of change things, and it's the same in my work, and that's why we're always trying to kind of drive this through difficult challenges and sometimes times. So what does it look like? What does innovation at Discover look like? So my background in UX, but also the facilitator of our design thinking, is that we do leverage design thinking, and that's one of the pieces that is kind of core to what we do. We design thinking, again, it's kind of been overused in a sense, and it's had its day to some level of being kind of cachet. But what we, in the end, it's all about problem solving. So how do you approach it? It's design thinking. There's the strategy approaches, but that's core to any kind of innovation work that you end up doing. So at Discover, we leverage design thinking, and we develop things. We have recipes, and we develop workshop recipes where we might use various techniques. So some of them can be things that are more design thinking driven, like something like a creative matrix. But then there's kind of use cases or user story mapping, things that are used around product and just around prioritization and product strategy. And so it's not just design thinking, but it's developing those workshops. And we try to do is we customize it for our internal teams, or we might have predefined workshops. So it could be, a predefined workshop where we try to focus on kind of aligning and defining around that. So making sure people are on the same page and are solving the right problem. Building empathy with users. So how do we approach that? Done talks around this and internally and externally around kind of like how we use customer empathy and a lot of things that we know as a core to us in being in UX and being in product. But again, getting people together and kind of getting that focus on the users within a workshop environment and developing that out is huge. Ideation. So Sophia mentioned visual. We try to do that in our work, but kind of getting everything in a Miro board. We use Miro as our whiteboard because a lot of our workshops are done online. Sometimes we do in person, but like this one. But a lot of them are done online. So we do those, think through those next possibilities. Sometimes thinking about the prototype, starting there and kind of like going from there and building from there and getting back to that empathy phase. And then, planning for the worst case scenario. So we've approached a pre-mortem method and that we have where it's just essentially just, we talk about what is successful like, but what does failure look like? What if, the worst case scenario did happen? How, determining that out, what that might look like, how we would respond. And if it's recoverable, it's one of the pieces there. So different types of approaches, either some of the predefined ones, but we also customize for our users, which are our internal teams. So our innovation framework is, so we have a few different approaches. So we do our work around supporting teams, and we can do workshops around design thinking and problem identification. And then people also will come to us with ideas, things that they want to develop. So my team, we're Discover Research and Development, and we designed this innovation methodology to take an early stage idea and develop it. Now, where that can end depends on the idea. Some concepts may not be sponsored internally and may kind of fall to the wayside, but that's kind of how we kind of approach it initially with that idea. So the first step is to create and submit that innovation idea, and then we help teams and individuals develop a concept proposal, which represents an executive brief that conveys the key descriptive elements of an idea. Concept proposals are used to find that sponsorship. We'll work then to develop a proof of concept. After getting that sponsorship, we'll be able to start working to produce that and create it during these define and developing stage. So that proof of concept could be various things. It could be an actual built out or MVP prototype. It could be various kind of various concepts, and I'll give an example in a moment. And then we end up with, at the end, a project dossier, which serves as a blueprint for the product teams to implement innovation projects at scale. So what this could end up being, it can end up going to kind of that, that JIRA, we do use JIRA, life cycle of, an idea and creating that initiative and putting it and actually making it as part of either a new product or new process. It could end up being something that's built out that ends up being open source. It could also be something that's patentable, which, I worked on a project I'll talk a little bit about, which was all those things. And, we have this kind of BAU we talk about internally, business as usual. And what we're trying to do is not work that way. We're trying to kind of change it up a little bit, approach things in a different way and rethink kind of our structured and standard approaches that we've done in the past. So, but we still have a structured approach. It's just different than what people have done in the past. So what does that innovation look like in action? So A project that I worked on was these offerings around the SaaS product, which required sending image data to a remote service to introduce both security and availability risks, which are personal identifiable information (PII). So the challenge there is the HMW is how might we build technology in-house to review this data and minimize the risk inherent with vendors and the inefficiency of manual review. Because what was happening, these checks sometimes would be sent like analog style. They would be skewed kind of account numbers and checking account numbers, and it would be difficult and to read without requiring someone manually to kind of go through it. So stepping back a bit, optical character recognition is we use this technology, and we decided to use it. Why? Because OCR, or optical character recognition for short, is critically important to our business and customers. And OCR is the process of extracting text from images. So when done well, it improves customer service, customer experience, reduces costs, and prevents errors and resulting losses. So what did it actually look like? Is like a check like this, where you would kind of see where an account number would be, routing number would be skewed, and a signature would sometimes cross over. And so we had to create a technology that allowed to do this, allowed to actually review these checks and actually be able to kind of break up these numbers to chunk them so that they were readable. And this was not readable without going through a manual process until we worked on this technology. So the questions that kind of came up around this was, what were we responding to? How do we minimize the manual work that is error prone without relying on a vendor, which can affect business continuity? Being a bank and in finance, risk and compliance is paramount. So having vendors work on these problems, we obviously have vendors that support us. However, at times, these are things that we want to try to keep in-house. How do we do that and continue on and not affect the business? Create and kind of manage that technology. So what, can we do this? Could we create it in-house? This is, many times when we approach challenges and an innovation method is around build versus buy. So, obviously there's always an option to buy it from a vendor, but what can we do? What we're trying to do in this process, in this example, and just in general, is that, can we do this internally? Can we build this internally? Is it make sense? Is it feasible? Is it viable? And is it desirable? And could this be reusable internally and beyond? So anything that we try to build and support the building process is a technology that we try to think about, where else can we apply it? And this was something that we felt we could be applied in various use cases across our organization. So what did that look like? What did the results look like? Scanning accuracy was 97% in only 5 months. The numbers were pretty low. We were having probably maybe 70% or 60% accuracy during the manual process. So it really increased greatly. We reduced that risk and cost. We brought it internally. It's an in-house service now, and something that we did and to improve that accuracy. Now we can use it for other pieces, which led to kind of avoiding those vendor costs and that removing that vendor from what would have been something that could create some risk within and address that business continuity piece. And there are 2 patents now filing for patent pending patents for this work. And we've also opened this up to other financial organizations around open source. So that's starting up as well. So these pieces came together, and we created this product that really worked for us internally, but also it's something that open source to across our industry. So we normally we're going to be do this in person, and I was going to run an activity here, but we can't do that here. So we're just going to talk a little bit about maybe some ideas, and so we'll just have you, and you're there, just think about an idea. Usually, what I would do is, like I said, remotely, I'd run this in Miro and facilitate it. We were physically there. I would have had you guys maybe get some Post-its going and get you out of your seats. So feel free to stand up if you want to and stretch your legs. But we'll talk a little bit kind of what are the methods we use. So the SIPAP is what we kind of structure when an idea comes through, and kind of how we actually, ensure that when we kind of have thought through what the pieces around the idea are. So it's situation, complication, or challenge, implication, position, action, and benefit. So you start by clearly writing that problem. What is that situation? So the complications, what's impacting the situation, as well as implication of failing to act on the problem. Talk a little about pre-mortem. This is kind of getting a little bit into that piece. You want to position the problem. What is that a proposed approach to solving that problem at stake? You start getting those necessary steps that need to be taken, and then you clearly state that the benefit and expected results of implementing your proposed solution. So there's a little bit of a hypothesis approach, experiment design here, where you're kind of like, okay, this is what you're testing out, this hypothesis, and then these are the benefits that you expect from that solution. So that's kind of the steps of what we generally use to start building out ideas. So what does that kind of look like? This one's a example of a potty training a dog. I probably should use this for kids right now because I have toddlers, and this is a fun time in that regard. So what's that problem? Our dog in the potty train doesn't want to go outside to use the bathroom. Okay, that's a situation. Got it. What's their complication? You can't trust her alone in your house, and winter's coming, and it'll be cold outside. Well, it's like so this is causing us not to trust her. We can't go anywhere. Weather might make it harder to go outside. Implication, stuff gets ruined. Odor, can't get we can't even get a dog sitter. Don't get her potty trained. Our floor will keep getting ruined. And then, what's the position? We can hire a dog trainer to come and do that work. And then we propose that we hire a dog trainer. Action, understanding our budget, how much you can afford, and research trainers, and dog training afterwards. And to understand that budget, we need to understand who's available, and then the benefits, saving money on carpet cleaners, and really the peace of mind piece. So obviously this is a funny kind of example, but as you can see, you kind of build out that idea, and you kind of start thinking about like, okay, what is that? What is the action that they can take? And this is why, even whether it's in work or personal, it's a way to kind of start thinking through approaches. Beyond the SIPAP, we use other resources and methods. We actually have published internally over 80 or 85 or so, and we continue to grow them. But some of these are kind of more kind of cleaner and can be done in very brief activities. So something like a wow now how, which is what's new and exciting ideas that could be created now, what elements or variations can be accomplished today, and how can we implement our idea ASAP. So there's an aspect of here's a wow, here's the aspect of what can actually be done now. And I think reference to the presentation again, it's kind of like that good piece of well, we need to ship now. So that's where we're kind of looking at and seeing what can be done there, and then what can be implemented. So this is a really quick activity you can do a lot of times with product teams and get some good ideas out and kind of move it forward. And then if you want to get a little deeper, value proposition design, I really like it. Those who maybe used other strategizer business methods will recognize this. But this focuses on the jobs to be done, and uses pain, frustrations, gains, and motivators to drive the solution offering. So this is when you get in depth. I also like this in regards to when you're building out your personas. You kind of link this a little bit with an empathy map. And if you are building out an actual idea, this can be coupled very well with a lean canvas for an initial business plan. And there's a lean canvas, and there's empathy mapping. And then there's a scoping canvas. So this is actually, now we're talking about getting desirability, feasibility, viability. That's a piece there. So what claims, beliefs, or open questions need to be resolved? So this is now, you can make something, you can create something, but but is it desirable, feasible, or viable? Then what is that? What are the deliverables, and what is that exit criteria? Assumptions that are being made, and then dependencies, stakeholders. So walking through these steps, it has you go deeper around your user needs, and it goes a bit deeper, then maybe you take your lean canvas and then you kind of build on this. So all of these methods are kind of like standalone approaches and resources that you can kind of use, and also those that you can couple and work together. So high level takeaways: innovation is all about starting with an idea, not a technology. I think many of us know that inherently, but sometimes, we go down kind of that rabbit hole of like, oh my God, this new technology. Oh crap, what did OpenAI do today? Let's drive with that. And then, internal methodology is applicable to any ideation process. There's nothing here that, we try to develop something that based on a lot of different kind of resources and practices that are out there, but it's nothing that can't be obviously applied to any of your work, and to some degree your life. Leveraging design thinking and all the UX tools that you already know. So, and honestly, any kind of product strategy tools, business strategy tools, those are pieces that all should be incorporated in kind of your thinking around this. And not all ideas lead to innovation, but all ideas can be tested. So I think that's one of the pieces around it where it's just like not everything is like innovative, but you do have an idea. It could be something that could just be, feature change or change requests, or something that can be a better experience for your customers or your users, but not necessarily like a game changer in innovation. And that's okay, because that's the majority of our work. But it's just more kind of changing the way you potentially think or approach the work. And that's all I have. There's a Q&A. I know we'll talk with Marne, and if anyone has their phones out, I'll put that up there if you want to connect with me, but you can also find me on LinkedIn. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. That was really great. Thank you for sharing that. We do have quite a few questions here. We'll try to get through some of them. Everybody wants all the resources you shared, so if there's a way,
let's figure something out afterwards, and we can do that.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I think the audience is interested in getting some of those templates so they can use in their work. So yeah, if there's a way to do that, that'll be great. One question from the audience is, what is the hardest part of that funnel to get buy-in? I think they're talking about that reverse pyramid image you showed.
Oh, what's the hardest part? Well, first off, the hardest part is, I think, the majority of organizations that you're going to work in your career are not necessarily innovative organizations. And I think everyone wants this. That's why I make the joke about innovation, because everyone's like, oh, I'm innovating, okay. But part of it is just kind of like, you're always pushing against kind of like what we talk about BAU or status quo within organizations. And because we all have work that has to be done. Like there is like backlog items that have to be knocked out, like no matter what your role is. I think that's one of the challenges of like, how do we just kind of step back? I mean, I'm like scheduling a workshop, couple different workshops right now with internal teams. And I'm like, well, this will be a 2-hour workshop. We can split it into 1 hour. Like, let's just split it into 1 hour, because no way we can get 2 hours together with people. And the reality is like, but taking that step to kind of like start thinking in a different way or approaching the work in a different way in itself, sometimes is a lot. So I think it's kind of like when we talk about our workshops, we talk about the beginner's mind. Come in with the beginner's mind, and just be ready to kind of absorb and be involved. And I think, but again, with organizations, like you also have to be, if you're the person who's kind of trying to drive the innovation, you also have to be empathetic around the fact that, we talk about being empathetic to users. We have to be empathetic to our, colleagues that we're trying to innovate with, and saying like, we recognize the work that has to be done, that you have to knock out, and we're here to support that. And our team kind of works as kind of that extension of a team, almost like internal management consultants to kind of support it. I don't know if that answered that question. Hopefully it did.
That's great. We had another question. This was something I was also interested in, which is an interesting part of your sort of R&D role, but the idea of building over buying, and how do you sort of think through that? So the question exactly is, how do you choose build over buy, or says, do you choose build over buy where you can?
Well, and so I think so we have different kind of innovation groups within Discover, and one kind of works on those that want to buy something. So for example, if you want to add, like, every product now has like a new AI component or Gen AI component, right? So like that is kind of like, oh, well, you're buying that, you want to add that, you're going to go through this process. That's not necessarily innovation. And that's why I talked about technology and things like that. Even that team is under an innovation umbrella, and even they're like, it's not really innovation. But again, the reason our team exists is like when you have an early stage idea and you're trying to truly understand if it makes sense to build versus buy, and that's why. So we'll build out those early proof of concept to see if it's something that's feasible based on what we're looking at. But there's a lot of vendors out there, and a lot of times people just want to buy something, and I think that's really what it is. And we welcome that. Please go to that other team and help you buy that. But if you really want to think through a way to potentially build something internally, without having a vendor, and a lot of times risk and compliance comes to play, and that's sometimes for us where people come to us, like, we have to do this internally because it's going to be a problem if it goes externally. If we rely on a vendor, or we've had a vendor and it's gone to hell because information has been released. Wait, that didn't really happen. Sorry, might be recorded here. Or something might have happened that shouldn't have happened, and now we have to respond. So that's why we try to kind of get people, in those early stage ideas who really are interested in potentially building something. That's, again, like one thing I'm just scheduling right now is people who are actually interested in redesigning and building something that's currently an external application.
Awesome. Just a quick follow-up to that. Are you on the patent for this awesome product you worked on?
I am. So what's good is that what's good about working in this team is that I got to be on two different patents, because I'm around a lot of smarter people. So I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful for my team in that regard. So and we, one that's around this particular optical character recognition image processing one, another one around accessibility, which was dyslexia one.
It's got to be a life goal. Yeah, that's great. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, Discover, our team is really kind of focused on patents. We actually just did 2 weeks of like helping people develop patents, like sessions internally, and we're getting a bunch of disclosures, as they say, where our legal team really works through and kind of supports and helps out.
That's amazing. Let's do one more question and then wrap up. I know you kind of touched on this earlier about, everyone has their regular thing that they have to do. So can you share some, best practices or tips? Like, how do you get partners and teams to like pause what they're doing, or the BAU that you described, right? And to really try to think and innovate. I'm sure you have some hurdles with that. So how do you convince them to carve out time to actually do this work?
Our biggest hurdle, I think it's, so we really, when I came to Discover 2 years ago, and I felt like I become kind of like the almost like account manager salesperson within internally to try to sell our services. I feel like I'm one of those management consulting companies. I'm the person who's the account person trying to get people to know who we are. So I think part of it is what we try to do is we try to get out there and just kind of connect and network, just like everyone networks internally and externally and everything. We do it internally to try to get people to understand what we do. We create these methods and put it out there for self-service. They're out there. They can go on our one of our sites and just pull it down, download a template from Miro and go to town. We're here I work with teams on coaching. They want to do self-service. I'll help coach them. It's just a lot of just, getting out there. And it's not the most fun answer because, like I said, I think the default is we have work, we have a job description, we have things that need to be completed. It's just there are certain people that, and we've been in a situation where we're like, no, we're good, we'll do that. I'm like, okay. And there's certain that really just want the help, want the support, want to approach things differently. And in the end, it's going to be, depending on the organization you work in, it's largely going to be in the minority around those, the people who are really willing to kind of like rethink the way they work. And I think when you want to kind of like, got to reach out to those designers, those product people, those strategists around the organization, those marketing people, like all the people that are UXDX, like that pie chart are the people in your organization you want to reach out to, because those are the individuals and the people. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir a lot of times. The people on this call are the people trying to rethink the way we work, trying to do things a little differently so we can kind of, work better. And again, there's some organizations that might slot out, here's your free time to kind of structure that work. Maybe that exists in your organization. Maybe use that to kind of like see if you can partner and really kind of reach across the aisle. I feel like that's not the right term, or maybe it's too much of a term that I shouldn't say right now, but reach across like teams that aren't within just your team and not within just your discipline.
That's great. Yeah, I think it's awesome, and it's fun when you find a partner who really does want to work with you, because then you get to do great things.
It's so fun. I love doing this when we get, like I said, I'm so excited about scheduling some of these that I just, was emailing back and forth, and it's just exciting because when people are like of the same kind of mindset around kind of how do we do this, but do it better. And so that's what we try to do. And honestly, like working in a place where like everyone knows we're going through a merger. So a lot of that stuff, kind of halts innovation, like, oh, wow, we have to make sure we're just, doing things we have to do. And those are the things we're pushing against. And every organization has it. We're always pushing against the work that needs to be done. But how do you do this work better is the question. And that's why I said, how might we? HMW, how might we? And that's kind of the question you want to bring up when you're in these discussions.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your perspective. Okay, with that, let's wrap up today's session. Thank you again, both Robert and Sophia. Billy, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a great, very first event that we've had here for UXDX. I'll say UXDX Los Angeles. And we're excited to do more. As you can see, actually, if you could pull up the screen, we have some QR codes for joining our meetup group. You could probably follow us on there, which will see what events we have coming up. Also, please apply to speak. Everyone out there, you all have a story. You all have something interesting. We just learned from two incredible designers and innovators, and we want to hear from more of you. So please apply. We'd love to hear from you. And one more thing, too, is we do want to host events in Los Angeles, but we need venues. We're having a hard time finding venues. So if you know of a venue, if you've attended a talk like this, let us know where it was. Or if you know of a space that we can reach out to, please let us know, because we're really interested in seeing all in person and really enjoying that face-to-face connection. I think that's it. I think that went really well. I'm really happy. I think it went great. What do you think?
Thank you. Yes, great talks again. Huge thank you for our speakers for sharing their wisdom and experience with us today. And we look forward to connecting with you all next time, whether it's virtual or in person, hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, we hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks all.
Thank you.